Joining us now, NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez and NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki. Gabe, take us inside these final few hours for the Harris campaign, and what do we know about the planned rollout?
Hi there, Anna. Well, certainly a lot of suspense in these last few hours. But right now, the vice president is having to weigh other decisions. She's actually scheduled to be here at the White House in the Situation Room, along with President Biden, talking for a meeting about the situation in the Middle East. But all this as her campaign is entering those last crucial hours. You mentioned some of those high-stakes meetings that she had face-to-face over the weekend with some of the top contenders. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. And this all comes as the vice president is making this huge decision, really. And two sources tell NBC News that tomorrow she is expected to make her announcement with a digital video and also some social media components at some point tomorrow before that evening rally, which is set for Philadelphia. Now, we also understand that the campaign has just postponed another rally later in the week. She was supposed to head to 7 key battleground states. We understand that one of those states, the stop in Georgia, is now being postponed due to weather, due to that tropical storm that's churning in the southeastern U.S. But all this comes, Anna, again, as the campaign is nearing that self-imposed deadline to choose a running mate.
And as we take a look at the short list, Gabe, how much of the focus is on balancing the ticket, filling in any gaps Harris might have, as opposed to bringing someone on board who's more similar to her?
Well, that is a consideration, and all those factors are playing into this decision. But sources tell us that one of the key factors is chemistry, personal chemistry. And that's part of the reason you've been seeing the vice president take these meetings, and over the last few days, these last-minute meetings with some of her top contenders. The consideration will be someone that, perhaps won't undermine her in a Harris administration. But also there are other considerations, as you suggested. For example, Governor Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, a critical swing state. Could he help her get over the top in that swing state? Or Mark Kelly, another key swing state of Arizona. He could fill in some of those gaps that the Democrats have had when it comes to immigration. But then also Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. He is someone that could help in the Midwest. Wisconsin, also a key battleground state as well. So all those considerations come into play as the vice president is weighing her decision, again, expected within the next 24 hours or so, Anna.
Steve, there's a lot of chatter about home state advantage. Of course, every electoral vote counts. What does history suggest?
Yeah, there is, it seems, some kind of advantage to having a VP from a particular state in that state. Take a look here. These are recent Democratic vice presidential picks and basically trying to find a home state effect. What you're seeing, for example, Tim Kaine, Hillary Clinton's running mate in 2016, senator from Virginia in 2016 nationally. The popular vote nationally moved 2 points in the Republicans' direction from the previous election in 2012, a national trend of 2 points toward the Republicans. It did not move 2 points toward the Republicans in Tim Kaine's state of Virginia. It actually became a point more Democratic. Now, is that all a Tim Kaine home state effect? Well, there's state-specific trends. There's demographic factors. There was, at that point, a pretty swift movement that had been taking place for a few elections of Virginia getting bluer. So you don't really, it's hard to pinpoint it, but you do see on this list kind of a trend. Even when the VP state is not a battleground, Delaware for Biden in 08, Connecticut, Joe Lieberman 2000, you see the Democratic ticket performing better in those states than it did relative to the national trend. There's one exception on here, actually. California with Kamala Harris in 2020. National trend was 2 points in the Democrats' favor. California actually became a point more Republican. But overall, you do see it in these other 4 cases on here. It suggests maybe, if small, say it's a point, 2 points of a home state a boost. But if there is, and you're talking about Pennsylvania, the margin there was 1.3 points for Biden in 2020. If you're talking about Arizona, Mark Kelly, the margin there was 0.3 of 1 point for Biden in 2020. So it's small, but in that case would be potentially significant. And the only other one to just mention quickly, Anna, is, you're mentioning Tim Walz in Minnesota on this. Pull up his results from 2022. Now, look, Minnesota, not really a core battleground state. If this thing is close on election night, Democrats probably have problems in many other places. The idea for Walz is, does Walz appeal to a constituency constituency that could help in multiple states, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, blue-collar voters in those Midwest Big Ten states, whatever you want to call them. Well, the reality is this, though. When you look at Tim Walz, actually, I'm sorry, this is Biden and Trump in Minnesota. I'm trying to call up the governor's race, and I'm taking way too long here, and I apologize so much, but let me call up the governor's race just so you can see. This is Walz's re-election in 2022, and the headline when you look at this is Walz did really well, exactly where Joe Biden did really well. He did really poorly, exactly where Joe Biden did really poorly. You do not look at Tim Walz's performance and say, wow, he found voters in places that Joe Biden wasn't reaching in 2020. This looks almost identical, what Walz did to win in 22 to what Biden did to win the state in 2020, Anna.
All right, Steve, thank you for breaking it down for us. You never take too long, my friend. You are the expert. We are hanging on every word. Gabe Gutierrez, always good to see you. Thank you, sir. Joining us now, Democratic strategist, former Obama campaign advisor, and SiriusXM host, Amisha Cross. Amisha, it's great to see you here. Give us a look behind the curtain, if you will. Take us behind the scenes. What do you think's happening in these final hours before the vice president has to make a decision?
Well, if rumor is to be quoted as true, she has already made that decision. We are waiting to hear what that decision happens to be tomorrow in that rollout. I think that what it's going to look like is, quite frankly, what we've seen with these rollouts before. There's going to be a video likely to be released across social media. We're also going to see, in the lead up to that rally tomorrow, a lot of excitement from Democratic surrogates who are going to tout the newly selected VP candidate or VP choice. And we're also going to see a coalescing around that person in the same way that we saw about 2 weeks ago with Kamala Harris. I think that that's going to be a huge thing for the party. It's going to be a huge thing for, I think, multiple demographics, because we also recognize that Kamala Harris has ushered in a wave of fundraising, a wave of volunteer support that is unlike anything we've ever seen in presidential history in the United States. We're going to see that continue with the announcement of who her vice presidential selection will be.
And just to be clear, NBC doesn't have any reporting that she's made her decision just yet. We know she was still meeting with people as recent as yesterday. Who do you think would be her strongest VP pick?
I've said this from the beginning. I think her strongest VP pick is going to be Josh Shapiro. He definitely brings along with him a record of not only knowing her, but also being a former AG, also being someone who is in a must-win state, also being someone, I think, who can represent and pull along multiple demographics of voters in various areas across the country, not just within the state of Pennsylvania. I also believe that Shapiro is someone who she can work well with as the VP, because we also have to remember this isn't just about the run up to November. It is also about post-November. What will happen and who can she work with the best in the White House? Who's going to be that collaborative partner? Who's going to be that person who, like her to Joe Biden, was able to offer that level of support, was able to be ready on day one? All of these things matter.
Any concerns about just how quickly she's had to make this very important decision? Look at what's happened with J.D. Vance.
Well, the bench for the Democratic Party does not look anything like the bench for the Republicans. I would argue that every single person who was listed on the potential VP list has been someone who has a stellar record, has been someone who brought something to the table, and has been someone who has been proof positive within their states of what they can actually offer to a national audience. I don't think that we're going to see some of the same trauma and drama that came from a J.D. Vance pick, because, quite frankly, Democrats are smart enough not to push forth candidates that they know are going to be problematic. I would also argue we don't have anybody within our bench that looks like J.D. Vance on the national stage or in the states. So we are clear on that.
Amisha Cross, good to have you here. Thank you so much.